They were the picture-perfect couple, high school sweethearts turned newlyweds, wrapped in the bliss of a dream wedding and a luxury honeymoon on the sun-kissed shores of an exotic paradise. But just 8 days after saying "I do," the bride was dead, her lifeless body recovered from the turquoise waters of the Indian Ocean. Her husband's story didn't add up, and the clues left behind painted a chilling portrait of betrayal. This wasn't a tragic accident. It was something far darker. This is the haunting tale of Tina Watson, how her dream honeymoon in Australia turned into her final resting place, and how the man she loved may have plotted her murder before she ever walked down the aisle. Like, share, and subscribe to True Crime Hub for more chilling stories of love gone deadly, secrets buried deep, and justice pursued at all costs. Tina Thomas was a sweet, soft-spoken Alabama girl raised in a close-knit Baptist family. A natural beauty with kind eyes, she was the kind of person who lit up a room with quiet grace. She worked as a receptionist, volunteered at her church, and dreamed of one day having a big family of her own. It was during her college years that she met Gabe Watson. He was tall, charming, athletic, a self-proclaimed adventurer who swept Tina off her feet. To her family, Gabe was protective and charismatic, though he often came off as controlling. Friends whispered that he was a little too possessive. But Tina, ever loyal, saw only the good in him. They dated for years, and eventually, Gabe proposed. Tina said yes, but even before the wedding, there were red flags. Gabe insisted on handling the honeymoon plans alone and pushed for scuba diving excursions, something Tina was nervous about. He even encouraged her to take diving lessons, despite her discomfort. When she failed her initial certification, he pressured her to keep trying. By October 2003, the wedding bells rang. Tina and Gabe said their vows in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by friends and family. Days later, they were off to Queensland, Australia, with plans to dive the famous Great Barrier Reef. It should have been a dream. Instead, it was a setup. On October 22, 2003, the newlyweds embarked on a diving trip aboard the Spoil Sport, a dive vessel operated by Mike Ball Dive Expeditions. It was Tina's first real open-water dive. Gabe, an experienced diver, claimed he would stay close to her. Underwater, the current was strong, too strong for an inexperienced diver like Tina. But they entered anyway. Minutes into the dive, Tina began to panic. Witnesses later reported seeing her flailing, eyes wide with fear. Gabe, instead of helping, surfaced and told the crew Tina had panicked and sank. Her body was found 90 feet below, lying on the ocean floor. Something felt wrong immediately. Why didn't Gabe attempt to bring her up? Why did he abandon her in distress? And why did he swim to the surface without trying to get help from the dive crew underwater? But it wasn't just what Gabe did, it was what he didn't do. He never called out. He didn't ask for the rescue team to dive after her. He appeared calm, distant, cold. The dive guide, Wade Singleton, dove down and recovered Tina's body. She had drowned, but there were no injuries. No signs of marine attack. No struggle, just silence. Australian authorities began to question Gabe immediately. His story shifted. First, he claimed Tina had signaled distress, then said she was fine. He said he tried to help her, but his dive computer showed he had spent barely 2 minutes underwater. Back home in Alabama, Tina's parents were shattered. Their daughter was dead, and the man she loved had returned without her, and without answers. But then the bombshell dropped. Gabe had taken out a life insurance policy on Tina just before the wedding. He was the sole beneficiary. Even more chilling, the policy stipulated it would pay out double if Tina died on vacation. Tina's father, Tommy Thomas, refused to let it go. He launched his own investigation, contacting Australian authorities, pushing media coverage, and speaking out. He believed Gabe murdered Tina, and he would stop at nothing to prove it. Authorities reopened the case. A re-examination of the dive logs, equipment, and Gabe's strange behavior led to a startling theory. Gabe may have turned off Tina's air supply underwater. While the case against Gabe built overseas, back in Alabama, cracks began to emerge in the facade of the grieving husband. Friends started coming forward with uncomfortable memories. Gabe had often joked about insurance payouts and the cost of weddings. One friend said he once asked how much life insurance a spouse could take out before the wedding. And then came the women, 2 ex-girlfriends who described him as possessive and emotionally manipulative. One said he had threatened her when she tried to break up with him. Another recalled how he would isolate her from friends and family. Even stranger, Gabe's behavior after Tina's death was cold and calculating. He refused to return her belongings to her parents. He demanded her wedding ring. He sued the dive company. He even tried to get money back from the honeymoon package. This wasn't a grieving husband. This was someone cleaning up loose ends. Despite mounting evidence, American courts were limited. Prosecutors struggled to prove intent and premeditation beyond a reasonable doubt. But for Tina's family, there was no doubt left. To this day, Gabe maintains his innocence. He's since remarried and lives a quiet life. But the questions linger. Why did he insist on diving, despite Tina's fears? Why did he leave her underwater and not call for help? Why was the life insurance policy taken out just before the wedding? Why was he more focused on refunds and possessions than his wife's death? These questions haunt Tina's parents, who continue to speak out about the case. What happened in those final moments underwater may never be fully known. But one thing is clear, something went terribly wrong on that honeymoon. And the man who vowed to love and protect Tina Watson may have been the one who ensured she never came home. Tina's story is a tragic reminder that not all love stories end in happily ever after. Behind smiles and ceremonies, there can be secrets darker than anyone imagines. If you were moved by Tina's story, help us keep her memory alive. Like, comment, and subscribe to True Crime Hub. Share this video to raise awareness for victims of spousal abuse and betrayal. Let's demand justice, even when the courts fall silent. And remember, sometimes, the most dangerous place isn't a dark alley or an empty street. It's beside the one who promises to love you, till death do you part.